Hey there, Dave Gardner here, and I want to review this awesome flashlight that I just picked up. And the box that I got had everything fitted inside it, nice and packed and organized. And what we have here, and we'll go through this a little bit one by one. We have, of course, the flashlight. Okay, it's nice and big and sturdy. We have a strap that I can hang and hook on to the bottom part. I don't know if you can see that hole down there. Oops, the light just came on there. And I can just clip that on there so I can have a over-the-shoulder strap if I want to play around with it and have that and carry it around. I can keep it in my car. I have the car charger, and I also have an inside the house regular, AC, DC, whatever you want to call it, electrical converter for US. I'm not sure this part pops out. No, it does not pop out. Sometimes you can pop out, or you can buy another converter if you're in another country. And the other thing we'll talk about in a minute is this little extra piece of plastic here. But we got the manual, and I found out, interestingly enough, on the back, not only do we have, again, the two chargers, of course, look like your typical ends that go in and plug in. And so when we pop this out, we'll just pop that out there, and it will be waterproof. If you look at the bottom, we do have a rubber gasket seal to prevent water from going in, and basically you're going to just plug that in here. Mine came charged, so I'm assuming yours will come charged as well. So you're going to plug that in there. But then I noticed that there was a USB, and I was really curious and wondered if it was meant to charge with your computer. But no, a cool little function is that if you have a portable charger, you can charge, of course, your phones, but this also does the same purpose. This acts as a portable charger. So when you're going to charge up the battery and you're going to have it, for example, in your car or some other area, you go camping or whatever, and you don't have a place to plug in, you're going to be able to plug in your phone through this jack right here. So, assuming you have, like this, your typical cell phone cord, you're going to plug that in one end, and then you're going to plug for example, your iPhone into the iPhone, and you're going to be able to charge that up. So I just want to show you a couple functions. And cool thing here, we got a couple things. I know that we're not outside, but just to show you some of the intensities, that is really, really bright. We have a side light that not only does it go white, and we can dim it down a little bit, but we can also hold that button and we can get an emergency warning. So that's the top button. So I'm going to turn that off to not blind us, but that's the top button here. So again, press it once, it's really bright. Press it a second time, dims down. If we hold, it will go into that emergency situation. The bottom light, basically going to turn the flashlight on. We got real bright, and then we got dim. And a cool little function here, if you want to have a party, we basically got a strobe light feature. They list it as an SOS feature in the pamphlet, basically just to save for a warning. So I just want to point those out. Then the other thing I want to point out here, and I find it a little interesting, but I can understand why, is this little hole here, and that's where this other piece comes in. Now, there's some pros and cons to this. The makeup, I'm just going to move this out of the way here for a second. The makeup, I believe, it's very flimsy. This is very strong and sturdy and has some weight to it. Feels like it's good rigid construction. This feels like a really cheap piece of plastic, and basically the legs open up and you basically get a tripod. Now, the problem is this piece right here. This piece right here is not very supportive at times, and I'm going to show you why. So once you get it locked in space, you can just press the side tabs. There's two little squishy side buttons. Press that in, that's going to release it, and you can come back down again for when you want to fold it back up and basically, transport it, keep it a little smaller area. Now, the problem is the way that this is situated. And so if you look at this, and if we want to have support, as far as, going in here, we're going to screw this in here. And so I'm going to just take a second. This basically just screws in. And basically, as you screw that into the hole, you can feel it tightening up. And so when I open this up, okay, here it is on its tripod. And at this part, it doesn't really make sense because the way this is, I can only keep it going. And if I keep it going to a certain area, watch what happens when I let go. It just falls over, it becomes too heavy. So once I get it beyond like a certain point, weight, again, is just going to bring that over. So if I'm trying to use the flashlight to go forward and to have a warning, that's not really going to help. And so the way that this was lined up, yes, it's angled a little bit. If you look at this, it's not, you know, perfectly horizontal. It's actually pointing up a little bit. I know my camera angle's a little bit off. But again, once I change this, because this part right here would make a lot more sense if I could loosen this up and take it off and line it up the other way, but it doesn't fit right. If you notice the hole where the screw is, where this lines up, where it should line up, it's off by you know, almost a ½ an inch. The hole is right there. The hole is at the very edge, and it's not lined up. So when I line this up, it's actually hitting this part right here. It actually doesn't line up very well, and so it takes a little bit more effort. You can screw it in, but it's just very awkward. And so as we screw it in, it's not lined up very, very appropriately. And so once we get it in here and we can play around with the angles and I can get it to go down, now I might be able to play around with a little more. Okay, now I can angle it up. So for example, if I am in an emergency situation and, you know, I have my car on the side of the road and I want to try to fix the, for example, tire, for example, we're going to hold that down, the top button, we're going to hold that one down, and we're going to get the emergency situation because I'm fixing my car on the side of the road on a dark, rainy night or something. But I also want to use this button and flash that towards my actual tire. So of course my tire is going to be over here. So again, it has its benefits, has pros and cons. The light in the actual flashlight itself is awesome, really cool. You know, I would highly recommend picking one up. Again, this part, this little function, assuming you don't need to use the tripod, but every once in a while, it's probably okay. But the function and the way that they angled it is actually wrong. So, you know, they might want to redesign that actual piece. So I'm going to turn these off again so I'm not blinded here. And we're going to pause this video now because I want to be able to show you just some of the power of, you know, how bright this actually is. So sit back and hold tight. All right, so I'm back here. I'm actually in my basement, so it may be sounding a little bit different. It's daytime, so we see a little bit of light down there already. But when we turn on the flashlight, boom, okay, super bright all of a sudden. Just look at the size of that, you know, the beam that hits there. And again, if we want to change that a little bit, we want to dim it up a little bit. And, you know, if we want to go into our flash mode like we're having a party, oops, I forgot to hold it there for a second. Hold it down for a couple seconds. Sounds like we're at a, you know, we're at the club here. We got the strobe light, we got the emergency light. And again, if we have the top part, this is just the other part coming out of the top of it. That still is like a nice light. So let's say you're out camping and you just want to have a light, but it's not super bright. You could use something like this. And so I want to just show you just some of the difference, you know, and how well it lights up the room that way. And when I get rid of it, all out. So again, that's the side light. Again, we have basically the high, medium, or, you know, high and low and then off, versus the bottom light. You know, we get that intense beam showing through there. And so the other thing again with the top one is the emergency situation. So let's say we're in an emergency situation, we can see that. So, you know, you're driving upon a scene and or someone is coming upon you and you see that flashing red light. So again, super, super powerful. And we'll do another clip here in just a minute in a different area when we're out at night. All right, we'll see you in a bit. All right, we're back in action. You can't see me, but as I promised, I want to do it outside. And so I want to show you a couple things. We have the warning. We can basically use this as like a lamp or whatever if you're out camping or whatever. If you want a little dimmer, you can have that. And again, like we showed you before, if you hold it, we basically have our strobe light effect. And you can actually get a, you know, warning. For example, if you're stuck on the side of the road, your SOS, you want to get some relief, and you know, call 911 or whatever. But you have that in there. But as far as the actual flashlight itself, if you take a look, here we are in the backyard. Super powerful. Got a big beam, and basically it's like one of those big ass ones you'd see in the sky with a big strobe light and a big spotlight. So it is pretty big. I don't want to blind the neighbors, but that's, you know, probably another 100 feet or more, 50 yards. So super, super powerful here with this flashlight. We got a little dimmer. And then, of course, we got our off. And if we want to have some fun, like we showed you before, we got our strobe light function. Either that or it's ready for Halloween.